Taped live in Canada, it's Jim's Record Party. Hello everybody, welcome to Gospel Time here on Jim's Record Party. It's so nice to have you with us. I'm your host, James. Today we'll be looking at some beautiful gospel albums. Here is the brass choir album by Ralph Carmichael, the great choral writer and arranger. We know him mostly by his beautiful arrangements for human voices. And his signature harmonies, I would say, really set Mr. Carmichael apart from others. These are beautiful works done strictly by, as the title suggests, a brass choir. And it's very interesting to hear, and very pleasurable to hear his writing, his arrangements, here transposed, I'm using that term loosely of course, to a brass choir. The different entimbres and textures and tones, tonal qualities is very satisfying. I probably do prefer his vocal works, but this is a very nice addition to his catalog and a must-have. Brass Choir by Ralph Carmichael, here to open Jim's Record Party. Number 2, featuring 2 albums by the Cathedral Quartet, one of the greatest white gospel quartets, working of course out of the Cathedral of Tomorrow, I believe it was called, the Rex Humbard Cathedral in Ohio. Here featuring their tenor, the great Mr. Glenn Payne. Beautiful album cover, I just love this cover. And the second album is an album that was from my parents' collection, the Cathedral Quartet with Strings, and this is an album I grew up with from the time I was tall and old enough to open the lid on the stereo console in our living room. And this album got a lot of play. Fantastic vocals here, absolutely world-class singing, on top of beautiful string arrangements here that support the vocals, do not detract in any way. This is a fantastic album, the Cathedral Quartet with Strings. Number 3, the face, of course, we all know it, the great, beloved Mahalia Jackson, the queen of gospel. There can be none other. The world's greatest gospel singer, the title says. This is on Columbia. It's not hyperbole. She absolutely is. Ms. Mahalia Jackson, the world's greatest gospel singer. Number 4, a change-up, gospel guitar by the great Joe Maphis. This is a stunning album. Again, perhaps a perfect album. It's Joe playing against himself using the wizardry of tape machines. He plays the rhythm track and then he plays the melodies over top of that. Beautifully recorded. Joe Maphis, of course, a guitar wizard, a guitar master, a guitar monster. Quite an innovator with sound, used the double neck, of course. Played around with effects, amplifiers, was very knowledgeable. Absolutely unequal to Chet Atkins, of course. The great Joe Maphis, here playing gospel guitar. Number 5, do you remember this man? We knew him in his slightly older evolution, perhaps. It's Jimmy Swaggart, the gospel singer and preacher. God took away my yesterdays. Jimmy Swaggart and his gospel piano. And he is an absolutely undeniable gospel singer and piano player. God took away my yesterdays, and if you know the late history of Jimmy Swaggart, you hope that God did take away his yesterdays, and I'm sure Mr. Swagger prayed that God would take away his yesterdays, and of course he believed that God would, and through Christ, absolve him of his earthly sins. This is his second album, still on the search for the first album by Jimmy Swaggart. Here we have Jimmy Swaggart and his gospel piano, God Took Away My Yesterdays. Brings us to our final selection here on Jim's Record Party, here on Gospel Hours. Has been very pleasurable, ladies and gentlemen. Bud Tutmark, Lord of Paradise. Very unassuming album, but you may guess by the picture that this has something to do with the beautiful island of Hawaii, and indeed it does. Mr. Tutmark, a great steel player, here playing all of the albums I believe he does play are gospel oriented, with judicious use of background vocals, I would say, a little schmaltzy in places, but in the best possible way. Bud Tutmark, very tasty player, plays the melody, he's playing the song in the service of the Lord of Paradise. Has a bit of a taste of the island, not too much. It's just that he's using the steel guitar, really, that sets it off. This is a beautiful album, a peaceful album. This is a Sunday morning album. This is any time you want to relax and meditate, pray, just spend some quiet time. Lord of Paradise by Mr. Bud Tutmark, here on Jim's Record Party. Well, that's the end of this episode, another episode of Jim's Record Party. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today as we looked at gospel records. So nice to have you with us. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and join us again next time on this same station as we look at more great, rare, beautiful albums here on Jim's Record Party.